Hi everyone, welcome to the video. This one I guess is an announcement or an update for RetroX. For those that don't know, RetroX is a gaming front end for Android. It's what I use all the time. It's just, it's so easy to use. The idea behind it is the fact everything's self-contained. All you do is add your games, and then it's got pre-packaged emulators all automatically set up for you. For example, you add a game for a certain system, if it needs to emulate it or download it for you in the background, it'll install it all pre-configured, away you go, and you don't need to have any technical knowledge. You just need to have an Android device with a controller and the games, and away you go. So it's been like that for a long time, and it works really well. But now, quite a big announcement. There's a new beta out at the moment which adds support for external emulators. So, like I say, that's a big shift. Obviously, all the internal ones are still there, which a lot of people would still need or still want. So it obviously depends on your technical knowledge and expertise, or if you like to tinker. You now have an option for external emulators. Let's have a quick look at it. Like I say, it's on beta, so it's a public beta. Anyone can go and grab it. The announcement, if I just stop this for a second, the announcement was on the Facebook page here. So there's a group, RetroX users. It's got I think well over 2,000 members at the moment, so it's a good community. So basically this is out at the moment. Like I say, it's in beta, but it's basically allowing you to run external emulators. So I thought we'd have a quick look at it and kind of show how it works and just some things to understand, I guess. I've got on a Windows 11 machine here, and obviously Windows 11 now has the Android subsystem, which basically lets you run Android applications within Windows, which is quite cool. So what it lets me do is run RetroX on Windows. So it's quite easy, it's quite handy for making the video rather than having to record on my phone or something, in theory. Just off the screen, so let's bring that in. So here's RetroX. It's running one of the many themes. Just to make it standard, what I'll quickly do is pop it back to the standard interface, so you can run it in different modes. So if you're running on an Android TV box, you can put it in TV mode with themes, which I'm in now, or you can put it just straight TV mode with the kind of standard out of the box theme, or you can put it in sort of phone tablet mode, so the interface is optimized for touchscreen or smaller interfaces. So if I just quickly go out to TV mode and just say yeah, and it'll ask me to restart the app, just so we've got kind of generic interface. So this is potentially the interface you might be used to if you installed it the first time. But obviously I encourage you to look at the themes, because there's quite a few on there. So so this is the interface if you're hopefully you've seen it before, which is why you're watching the video. So if we just go into the settings, so by default the external emulators are not enabled. You have to turn them on. So you just go into emulator settings, and I've already done it, but normally that would say disabled. And then also one of the external emulators it uses, or I guess technically RetroArch is a front end, is RetroArch, which has multiple cores, which are basically emulators. So RetroArch itself can play a whole number, it's tens. I don't think it's quite 100, but it's tens of different cores, emulators it can play. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's a lot. So basically all you need to do to tell RetroX is what version of RetroArch I've installed, either the 64-bit or the 32-bit version, and I have the 32-bit version. So really, all you need to do to get going with this new feature is obviously this toggles between disabled and enabled. Make sure that's, you get obviously a warning when you enable it, which is probably a good point to point to bring this up. So it's basically the whole premise of RetroX is to make it as simple as possible to get up and running and play your games. So all the emulators are pre-packaged and optimized for you. If, however, you're a more advanced user and you want to tinker, you can enable this feature and support external emulators. But just be wary that if you do this, obviously you need to make sure you set up the emulator already. So you've installed it, you've added any BARS files, you configure your controller, it's pointing at the right folder for your games, all that kind of stuff. Basically, make sure it works first, play some games in it, make sure you're happy it's working. Because obviously, with RetroX, then launching an external emulator is out of its control. If you've got the setting wrong or not set something, that's on you. But just making note here, so you won't get any official support, other than obviously I guess if you turned on external emulators and it's not actually launching the emulator, potentially, you can ask that question. But for actually running the emulators, you won't get any official support. But having said that, the Facebook group is full of loads of friendly, happy, helpful people, which will help you with any queries and questions you put in there. So also there's the address to it. So obviously it says you need to make sure, depending on what I just said, but then also be aware that the other sort of cool features of RetroX are things like cloud saves and all the auto configuration, auto download of artwork, all that kind of stuff. So I guess the big one is cloud save. So if you're using an external emulator, obviously things like the cloud saves aren't synced. So at the moment when you're playing RetroX, you're on your, say you've got multiple devices, you're playing a game, you save the states, you save your progress. That's actually synced up to the RetroX servers in the cloud. If you then go to a different device, say you've got a tablet and a phone, if you move between them and go to the other device, start that game up, you can then load that same save state and carry on where you left off. And likewise, even if you've only got a single device, let's say something goes wrong with the device, you have to format your memory, or you have to reset the phone, or whatever, or you just get an upgrade and you get a new phone. If you then go and install RetroX on the new device, obviously all those cloud saves are there for you in the cloud and they're synced down to that device automatically, so you won't lose anything if you switch devices. So stuff like that obviously doesn't work with external emulators because, like I say, they're external, they're outside of the control of RetroX. So if you're playing an emulator and you do a save state, make sure you back it up or do something with it, because if you wipe your device or change devices or move between devices, you're not going to have that save state. So just be aware when you enable them. So like I say, make sure enabled, make sure you've got the version of RetroArch set, 32 or 64-bit, depending on what you've installed, and then you're pretty much, that's good to go. And then it's a simple fact of picking a game. So on a PSP game here, so you pick a game for that system, click on the little cog for settings, and then you've got emulator options, and then you've got which emulator to use. So again, this is in the screenshots in the Facebook post, but just to explain a bit further, so an emulator listed here with nothing after it, it basically means it's one of the RetroX ones, default ones that it's in control of, so the PSP one. But obviously this one's a slightly older version. Anything with brackets external, surprise surprise, is external. So for PSP, for example, we've got the PSP emulator, we've got the gold version, which is the paid version of PSP, and then we've got the option to use the PSP core within RetroArch, and you pretty much just pick the one you want. So I know I've got RetroArch installed, so if I do that, it's now set to it, and if I come back out, I know now I won't launch it because I haven't set up RetroArch on this device, but if I click play now, it'll open in RetroArch rather than using the RetroX built-in one, and that's pretty much it. So the same for any other system. So now, because I've set that emulator for that game, if I was to go to PSP, for example, I've only got one game, but I'm saying, so that emulator would be set for any other games for this system. So let's see what we've got for, again, for Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation, same thing, go into the cogs for the settings, go to emulator options, and you've got the emulator listed here. So the LibRetro, so the RetroArch core version is what RetroX uses by default, but then all these other ones are all external ones you can use. So you've got quite a big selection for PlayStation. So you've got obviously DuckStation, EPSXE, FPSE, and FPSE 64. They're all standalone emulator Android, which you could pick, and then within inside RetroArch itself, RetroArch has a whole number of different cores that you could use. So you can pick all these, but obviously, again, like I say, make sure the external emulator is configured, and in the case of RetroArch, you have to make sure you've got these cores installed in RetroArch already, because if you try to launch it, RetroX will try to automatically start RetroX, load the core, load the content. If the core's not there, it's going to fail. So again, if you come in here and you've decided that you want to use, say, the Swan Station core in RetroArch, make sure you've already gone into RetroArch, gone into the online updater, downloaded the Swan Station core, and then make sure it's all good to go, and also make sure you've done things in RetroArch like copy over the BARS files, anything like that, so it's all good to go before you launch in here. But yeah, it's just a case of, like I say I want to do DuckStation in RetroArch, that's now set, and it's done, and that's as easy as it is. So as I said before, this is still in beta, so it's still being tested. There's been a few versions out, but it's got to a good state now where it's able to be released. So it still needs some feedback, and obviously not every single emulator will work, because you imagine with Android there's lots of variations. There's obviously the large number of emulators. And RetroX itself is working. That's working really well, so obviously that's one to use. But also with the standalone ones, there's a number that I've tested personally that are working. But like I say, there's a large number of standalone emulators, and it seems to differ on the version of Android you're using. So on some earlier versions, had a bit more success. On the later versions of Android, where they're a bit more secure and they need to access permissions and storage permissions and all that kind of stuff, kind of gets in the way, and so there's needs work on each individual emulator to get it to work. So, but like I say, a good number do, and obviously RetroX is working. But you don't be surprised, because it's beta. There might be a couple of emulators that don't work, and you get errors. If you do, obviously help the dev out. Take a screenshot, make a note of the version of Android you're running, what device you're on, what game you're trying to run, what system, what emulator, and like I say, screenshot if you can, and send it in to the dev. Probably easiest by by the Facebook group potentially. But yeah, so okay, it's a really good update, a big update for RetroX. This is a big kind of shift from using all the internal emulators to have that ability to use external ones. So it's really good, really positive. Like I say, still in beta, still testing. So if you want to help out, please do. And then I guess at some point, once the majority or all the emulators are working, it will get its final release, and and then who knows what's next, whether there's more integration, etc. But yeah, a really good update this for RetroX. So have a look. Feel free to download the beta and play with it. The only note on the beta thing, if you've currently got a beta version installed, you can just grab the beta, install over the top when you update to the latest version. If you're using the current sort of public version, the stable version, you will need to uninstall that before you install the beta version. So obviously just go into your apps list, uninstall RetroX. Also have a look out for the RetroX add-ons. They'll be in the list with their name will start with RetroX, and they'll have the RetroX icon. You need to uninstall those as well, otherwise you'll get an error when you try to install the beta version. But yeah, do that and switch to beta. I mean, personally, I've been using the beta version for a long time, and the way the dev works is that he'll do sort of private betas first, and then when he's happy that it's pretty stable, he'll then release it to public beta. And obviously if you're on beta, you'll get the update. So I've always used that. I've never had any problems. So I've stuck to beta on all my devices. But yeah, obviously up to you. Just be aware, like I say, if you want to switch from the main one to public, you need to do an uninstall and a reinstall, and I'm presuming vice versa. If you want to go beta back to public, you uninstall that version and install the public version in. So yes, I think that's everything. Yeah, like I say, enjoy. Looks like a real good update, and leave any feedback either on my channel or on the RetroX users group in Facebook. It's probably the best place to do it. But yeah, I hope you found the video useful. Hope you like RetroX, and I'll catch you on the next one.